Hello and welcome. Tonight, it's a tale of two worlds as Supreme Court upholds 5-year sentence of former federal lawmaker Faruk Lais for $500,000 bribery, opening a historic journey from lawmaking to prison. The River State House of Assembly overrides Governor Siminalayi Fubara and enacts 4 laws after the governor withheld assent to the proposed legislations. Former chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission slams the electoral body over the alleged malfunctioning of IREF during the 2023 general elections, says INEC has an explanation to give. And the Nigerian Air Force accepts responsibility for the January 2023 air strike that killed 37 herders in the Rukubi community of Doma local government area of Nasarawa State.
And on business news tonight, African Development Bank and Atijari Wafa Bank Europe signed 100 million euros risk-sharing agreement to unlock private sector potential to drive African trade.
On sports news tonight, Super Eagles players vow to recreate the 2019 African Cup of Nations round of 16 defeat of the indomitable Lions of Cameroon when both teams clash in Abidjan on Saturday.
City kidnapped kingpin Magamu, also known as Godara, killed by the Special Intervention Squad and operatives of the FCT Police Command Tactical Squad following a gun duel.
And in international news from London, Alabama has executed convicted murderer Kenneth Eugene Smith with nitrogen gas, the first time the method of capital punishment has been used globally.
Call it from grace to grass, and you may not be wrong. And that describes the current fate of the former House of Representatives member Faruk Lais. This comes as the Supreme Court has upheld his 5-year jail term as ruled by the Court of Appeal for accepting a $500,000 bribe from businessman Mr. Femi Otedola during his tenure as chairman of the House of Representatives Ad hoc Committee on Fuel Subsidy Probe. In a unanimous decision, the court dismissed Mr. Lawan's appeal, stating that his argument, which included a claim that he was not allowed to plead for leniency, lacked merit. The court further held that the trial court's failure to call for allocution did not invalidate the sentence.
Well, it's been a long journey from FCT High Court. They went to Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal affirmed the sentence of the FCT High Court on the third count that he should serve a 5-year term. And that was why he came to Supreme Court. And today, the Supreme Court has affirmed the judgment of Court of Appeal that the third count stands and is convicted on the third count, and he should serve the 5-year term. So there were 3 issues, and the 3 issues were resolved in the favor of the respondent, who is the federal government.
Faruk Lais's bribery scandal was blown open by businessman Mr. Femi Otedola, and the initial reaction of the former lawmaker was that he had nothing to do with the claims of Mr. Otedola. In this next report, we chronicle how the incident occurred and the legal battle that ensued from the lower court to the Supreme Court. Take a listen to this audio conversation.
I don't bring it to my house. Okay, you take it to your house? No, I don't want to bring it to my house. It's a lot of money. Yes. So where? Because I am rushing to the airport now. Yeah, the airport in the aircraft. And before they can come over now, unless I send somebody to the airport, I can't. By the time they come, I should be in the chambers. I have a lot of things to do myself. Is there anybody you trust I can give it to? Or maybe I should just, or maybe I should postpone my China trip tomorrow? No, it's okay. I would arrange with someone. Let me give you his number. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
This is the genesis of what has culminated in the conviction of Faruk Lais, the former chairman of the House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee on Fuel Subsidy Probe. The former lawmaker faced a 3-count charge bordering on asking for and collection of $500,000 bribe from the chairman of Zenon Petroleum and Gas Limited, Mr. Femi Otedola. For 8 solid years since 2013, both the prosecution and defense counsel tried to prove their case before the court. But almost 6 years after the case was transferred to Justice Angela Otaluka of the FCT High Court in 2015, it's now Judgment Day. Delivering her verdict, Justice Otaluka affirms that both the evidence before the court and the testimonies from defense and prosecution counsel established the case against the defendant and found him guilty on counts 1, 2, and 3. The defendant is accordingly sentenced to a 7-year jail term for count 1, another 7 years for count 2, and 5 years for count 3. Sentences, the judge says, will run concurrently. The court also orders the defendant to pay the sum of $500,000 to the federal government account. However, the defense counsel expresses his displeasure with the judgment and vows to appeal it.
We are clearly dissatisfied with the judgment delivered by the court for very serious legal issues, and there is no doubt that we are appealing the judgment.
Mr. Lawan's legal team went all the way to the Supreme Court, which has now upheld the judgments of the 2 lower courts, putting an end to the 11-year legal fireworks. With this judgment today, January 26, 2024, the former lawmaker is to serve the 5-year sentence as affirmed by the Supreme Court. Staying with legal matters, but here in Lagos, the State High Court sitting in Ngige has convicted and sentenced the founder of IREN Christian Ministry in the Lekki area of Lagos, Bishop Feyiroko Daniels, to life imprisonment for the rape of one of his church members. Justice Rahman Oshodi also sentenced the bishop to 3 years imprisonment for the offense of sexual assault of 2 members of his church. According to the judge, both sentences are to run concurrently, and the defendant is to serve his jail term at the Kirikiri Maximum Facility in Lagos, where he is currently being detained. His name is also to be registered in the Sexual Offenders Register as maintained by the Lagos State Government. Bishop Daniels was arraigned on April 17, 2023, by the Lagos State Government over the offense of rape, but he pleaded not guilty.
It is a judgment that will restore faith, primarily in the church, not just the church, because we have seen men of the cloth, the clergy, commit this crime over and over again, and we see the very institutions which are supposed to expose these crimes, covering it up. But with this judgment, we have seen that even though the judgment may be a while, justice will eventually prevail. We have seen that with this judgment, that morality and truth, which is the main fabric of our society, is protected by the judiciary.
In other stories, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has some explaining to do as regards the inefficacy of the results viewing portal, IREV, during the 2023 general elections. This is according to the former chairman of the Electoral Commission, Professor Atahiru Jega. According to him, his successor, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, gave assurances of the credibility of the IREV, but in the end failed to deliver on his promises. Professor Jega was speaking in an exclusive interview on Channels Television's show Inside Sources.
If you ask my opinion, I feel very, very strongly that INEC needs to tell us more about what happened with the IREV. In fact, at one point, I was even calling for a thorough public inquiry into what actually happened with regards to IREV. So I feel that something has happened which, in spite of the confidence and the very articulate manner in which the chairman of INEC had presented the IREV, it then failed.
Yeah, he did a good job of making the point, but then it was like over-promised and under-delivered.
Yes, so over-promised and under-delivered, but was it his fault? Mm-hmm. So that's a big question that, of course, INEC really needs to come forward. I can understand that maybe they have not been saying much about it, largely because of the cases in court. But as these cases are resolved and addressed, we need to go back and get to the bottom of what happened with regards to IREV.
Away from the courts to the new development in Rivers State, where in a rather historic move, the State House of Assembly has overridden the state governor, Siminalayi Fubara, and enacted 4 laws. This happened during plenary at the House of Assembly quarters today after the Speaker, Martin Emerili, notified the House about the governor's correspondence withholding assent to the proposed laws.
The day's plenary at the Rivers State House of Assembly begins, and it's all business as the Speaker walks in. As he settles down, the Speaker reads 4 letters from the Governor declining his assent to the 4 laws sent to him.
Assent to Rivers State House of Assembly Fund Management Financial Autonomy Law 2023.
The laws are the Rivers State House of Assembly Fund Management Financial Autonomy Bill 2023, the Rivers State Local Government Amendment Bill 2023, the Rivers State Traditional Rulers Amendment Bill 2024, and the Rivers State Advertisement and Use of State-Owned Property Prohibition Repeal Law 2024. The House debates on whether or not to override the governor's veto, with the Deputy Speaker quoting Section 100, subsection 5 of the Constitution to support his argument.
Do we have two-thirds majority as to override this section? So if we have, we are good to go.
Mr. Speaker, Section 100, subsection 5 is clear, and it reads, where the governor withholds assent and bill is again passed by the House of Assembly by two-thirds majority, the bill shall become law, and the assent of the governor shall not be required.
Before voting on confirmation, the Speaker takes a swipe at the governor, accusing him of having no intention of conducting local government elections.
The intent and purpose for this declining of assent, the governor has no plan to conduct local government elections.
After the House votes to override the governor, the Speaker brings down the gavel, confirming they've been passed into law.
A law to provide for the management of funds accruing to the Rivers State House of Assembly from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of Rivers State to ensure accountability and efficient utilization of funds and for related matters. It's now law for Rivers State in line with Section 100, subsection 5 of the 1999 Constitution as altered.
He also warns that the House of Assembly will never be a rubber stamp to the governor.
Going forward, Nigerians will know that the Rivers State House of Assembly is not a rubber stamp House of Assembly. The Rivers State House of Assembly is an assembly that will continue to stand by the people of Rivers State who gave us their mandates.
This is the first time since the advent of democracy in 1999 that a House of Assembly would override the governor to enact laws. Charles, Upper Room, Channels Television News.
In part 2 after the break, impeached Speaker of the Ogun State House of Assembly, Olakunle Oluomo, says his removal did not follow due process, approaches the State High Court to challenge the action of the lawmakers. Please stay with us. We're still in Rivers State, where Governor Siminalayi Fubara has sworn in the 9 commissioners who earlier resigned from his cabinet, but later renominated by him and re-screened by the State House of Assembly last week. The commissioners were administered the oaths of office by the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary, David Uhua-Maduenyi. Before one after the other, they shook hands with the governor. In his speech, Governor Fubara said the oath administered was instructive enough to remind the commissioners to uphold and defend the constitution of the country. He encouraged them to stand for justice and the interest of Rivers State.
I don't think I have any charge for you. You already read your charge. Your charge said, uphold and defend the Constitution. I will wish you well, that in your coming back, stand for justice, stand for the interests of our dear state. That is the purpose of your appointment, and that is the truth. I can see how heavy your hearts are. That is the truth. But I assure you that I don't have anything against any one of you. That is the truth. You were caught in between the crossfire. Our advice, give in your best. Like I said the first time, let this state and posterity remember you for what is good.
In Ogun, the last may not have been heard about the leadership crisis rocking the State House of Assembly. As Mr. Olakunle Oluomo says, he remains the Speaker of the House, even though his impeachment, or barred by impeachment by his colleagues on Tuesday. Now, at a press briefing in Abeokuta, the state capital, Mr. Oluomo explained that the lawmakers did not follow due process in impeaching him. While denying all the allegations leveled against him, he said he has approached the State High Court in the state capital to challenge the process leading to his removal.
I, Olakunle Oluomo, Right Honorable, remain the Speaker of Ogun State House of Assembly. I have been undaunted with a series of calls from various media houses, but I've restrained myself from addressing the press since Tuesday that the drama took place on the floor of the House. Why? Because I believe the leaders of the government and the party will intervene. But by Wednesday, when I realized that the intervention is not forthcoming the way I expected, I think I need to address the press.
The Nigerian Air Force has accepted responsibility for the January 2023 airstrike that killed 37 herders alongside hundreds of their livestock in the Rokobi community of Doma local government area in Nasarawa State. The Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Hassan Abubakar, stated this when he paid a visit to Nasarawa State today alongside some senior officials of the Air Force. He, however, explained that the action was not deliberate.
The outcry by several locals as well as well-meaning Nigerians that innocent citizens may have been accidentally killed in the strike necessitated a review of the reports of the strike, which later revealed that civilians were indeed killed during the airstrike. The need, therefore, to make amends became expedient. The unfortunate incident of January 2023 was in no way deliberate, as no military the world over will intentionally kill those it is mandated to protect. Our interest in initiating ways and means of reaching out to the victims, their families, or their representatives.
The State Governor, Abdullahi Sule, on his part, thanked the Air Force for its efforts in ensuring security in the state.
We started, and that's why you did not hear so much about it. We started by working on them from that 26th of January. And we started by even supporting them with a little bit of resources, because somebody who lost 9 children, what kind of compensation can you give such a person? This is the first time that I have seen that. And I want to commend you for this human face you are bringing into this kind of profession.
It's time now to head to the nation's capital, where Markwe Ogunyusuf is standing by to give us the very latest from our Abuja studios. Hello, Markwe.
Hello, Ayo. Well, we're starting off at the highlands of Plateau State, where Governor Kaleb Muftuang of the state has described the attacks on communities in Monguno local government area as inhuman and a setback to the nation's economy. The governor made the statement when he visited the communities that were affected by the latest attacks in the state. He maintains that the attack is a threat to food production.
Livelihood has been lost. Foodstuffs have been looted, some burned to ashes, and this is a huge setback. It means that we are facing the potential shortage of foodstuff before the next farming season. This is quite painful. And when we look into the remote and immediate causes of this crisis, it was entirely needless. And therefore, it underscores the imperative of living together in peace. And what we will be doing in the days ahead is to promote the culture of dialogue amongst our people. Because I believe that if there had been sufficient dialogue, this kind of carnage would have been averted. We want to therefore appeal to community leaders to rise to the occasion. Of course, one of the things that accelerated this carnage was the involvement of drug-induced youths, and from the reports I have received, this is something we must tackle urgently.
Back here in the FCT, the Special Intervention Squad and operatives of the Federal Capital Territory Police Command Tactical Squad have announced the killing of Abuja's most wanted kidnap kingpin, Magamu, also known as Godara, and two other members of his gang after a gun duel. Police Public Relations Officer ACP Olumuyiwa Adejobi made this known in Abuja while parading 17 suspected criminals for different crimes ranging from kidnapping, rape, and robbery, among other crimes.
The Nigerian police force is parading 17 suspected criminals for various offences, following what they have considered another significant stride towards fortifying the security landscape in the Federal Capital Territory and environs.
You can see like a skeleton, but it is so deadly.
The first public relations officer begins the news conference with the announcement of the killing of bandits operating, terrorizing and kidnapping innocent citizens in Barbery Area Council of the FCT, Kaduna and Nasarawa states.
In the early hours of today, 26th of January 2024, at about 1:40 a.m., operatives of the Department of Force Intelligence, IRT, engaged some armed bandits within the axis of, that is, Buhari-Kaduna area. In a fierce gun battle, and neutralized three of them, including their gang leader, known as Ngige, aka Godara.
One after the other, the suspects are paraded. Beyond the parade of suspects, the force headquarters paid a surprise visit to the police hospital in Ngige, where a policeman who was attacked while attempting to rescue the Ariyo family from kidnappers on the 2nd of January 2024 in Buhari is preparing for his second surgery. One police officer and a civilian died in that attack.
You will recollect that on the 2nd of January 2024, the family of the six, particularly the Ariyos, were kidnapped in Buhari area of the Federal Capital Territory. And there was a distress call to these men attached to Buhari division. I know ASP Adu Mohammed and ASP Adu Mohammed, ESP and Inspector Audu Ocheme and Sergeant Ezekiel Samuel Late, who were fatally injured at the incident. The men went to that place. They tried the best possible to pursue the kidnappers, but they were ambushed.
With the recent launch of the Special Intervention Squad, the Nigerian Police Force has vowed to continue to comb bushes and shanties in border areas to ensure the security of all residents of the country.
Still ahead on the news at 10, African Development Bank and Nigerian Wafa Bank Europe signed 100 million euros risk-sharing agreement to unlock private sector potential to drive African trade. That's some business news. You join us again. Welcome back. The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mr. Nyesom Wike, is threatening to declare any area council chairman who refuses to carry out regular security check a security threat. The minister made this pronouncement while lamenting the ineffectiveness of the area council chairman during an interface with the Abuja Municipal Area Council in the nation's capital. He also appeals to residents of the FCT to key into the transportation initiative of the Federal Capital Territory Administration when it's launched to curb the spate of one chance and insecurity.
The point is that if you do your job, I do my job, traditional rulers do their own job, security agencies do their own job, who have problems? Who have problems? But if you don't do your own part, I don't do my own part, he does not do his own part, then we are bound to have problems. So, Council Chairman, any council chairman that does not carry out their monthly security council meeting is a threat to the security of that council. It's a threat. And therefore, I will call a meeting of all traditional rulers, I'll call a meeting of all area council chairmen, and I'll call a meeting of all security agencies. And direct that if there's no monthly meeting here, in terms of security meeting, we should be let know and we hold our council chairman responsible as a threat to the security of that area council. Talk about one chance. We are trying to see what we can do in the next few days. We are bringing in so many buses and taxis that will bear Abuja, color and the rest of it. The drivers will be profiled. And so we have bid all of you, when these buses and taxis come, don't go and take the risk and go and enter a vehicle you don't know.
In other news, Imo State Governor Hope Uzodinma says the current administration of President Bola Tinubu is determined to end the challenge of crude oil theft in Nigeria. He stated this in an interview with State House correspondents shortly after meeting with Vice President Kashim Shettima at the presidential villa in Abuja. On the reported efforts towards reconciling the All Progressives Congress and New Nigeria People's Party in Kano State, Governor Uzodinma says Kano is not only important to the APC, but Nigeria as a whole.
I want to welcome back the Vice President, and you know he's the chairman of INEC, and I came to give him an interim briefing arising from the subcommittee of crude oil theft that I'm chairing on behalf of INEC. So we had a very positive discussion. It's still work in progress. We're addressing it. We are going to, at the end of the day, bring final solution to this monster called crude oil theft. Of course, government is one. The political class, no matter the political party you belong to, we are one. At the end of the day, what we are looking for is how to ensure that the ordinary man and woman in the streets are taken care of, and there is security for all of us, and the welfare of our citizens are also protected, which is the primary purpose of government.
Early publishing of the reports of the Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, NEITI, will help build trust and accountability. This is according to the Technical Director of the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, Mr. Alex Gordy, who has expressed concerns over the late publishing of the reports. Mr. Gordy was speaking at a news conference in Abuja at a meeting to round off his visit to Nigeria.
The validation categorized both these forward sales agreements and the purchase of a 20% equity interest in the Dangote refinery by NNPC as forms of resource-backed transactions. In the case of forward sales, resource-backed loans. In the case of the acquisition of a 20% equity interest in the Dangote refinery, a resource-backed purchase of equity. And indeed, the validation is very clear that a certain amount of information about these transactions has been disclosed in the public domain, such as the total value of the transaction and, at the time, the liftings of oil on a monthly basis to service those arrangements. But there was a lack of understanding of the full set of terms underpinning those agreements, in particular the repayment modalities. How much oil should be lifted when, at what valuation of the oil to service those agreements. And without that information in the public domain, which is required by the EITI standard, the average citizen cannot understand as of today how much of NNPC's future oil liftings have already been pledged to various other entities, and therefore the revenues from those liftings will not accrue to the Federation account.
And that's all from our Abuja studios. It's back now to you, Ayo.
Thank you so much, Mark. And I'll take you back to Plateau State, where the 24-hour curfew earlier imposed on Mangu local government area has been reviewed by the state government. A statement by the Director of Press and Public Affairs, Ngige, the curfew is to be observed from 4 p.m. to 8 a.m. until further notice. The statement adds that the review followed an improvement in the security situation in Mangu local government area after strategic engagements with community leaders across faiths and ethnic groups within the council area, as well as due consultation with the State Security Council. Governor Kaleb enjoined residents of Mangu local government area to strictly observe the curfew and refrain from taking laws into their hands, and urged security personnel to enforce the curfew in order to avoid any breakdown of law and order. A jet with about 10 persons on board, including some important personalities, has overshot the runway at the Samuel Ladoke Akintola Airport in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. It was gathered that the incident occurred around 11 a.m. today, with firefighters and rescue officials from the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria being deployed to the scene, although no casualty was recorded. A spokesperson for the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, Carol Adetukujo, told our correspondent that it was a private plane from Abuja which landed safely but then skidded off the runway. Meanwhile, the spokesperson for the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau, NSIB, Mr. Tunji Oketumbi, said the team had been dispatched to the site for a probe. A similar incident occurred in November last year at the same airport when a private jet conveying the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, crash-landed. In his bid to diversify the economy of Enugu State, Governor Peter Mbah has reiterated his commitment to partner with both local and foreign investors in agro-allied businesses as well as energy. The governor stated this when he received delegations from the African Development Bank and the Skipper Sale Group at the Government House in Enugu. He identified agriculture and energy as critical sectors for the state's economic growth.
We're going to be collaborating with AFDB and the Skipper Group in making sure that not only that we scale up our production, but also we build the special agro processing zones. And the idea is so that we're able to ensure that we have zero post-harvest losses and also process and add value to agro produce. And that's essentially what we're here for. But beyond also agriculture, we know that we require power. We need electricity. And we have also engaged in discussing how we can have Enugu not only lighted up, but also ensure we have constant electricity supply.
Meanwhile, in Abia State, Governor Alex Otti is urging investors to take advantage of the numerous investment opportunities and improved business environment in the state. He's promising that government will support legitimate investors to boost the economy, create wealth, and take the people out of poverty. Governor Otti was speaking at an event in Umuahia where he noted that the state has become a strategic investment zone for business planning.
And by understanding it is established on a...
This event is a major testimony to the faith members of the business community are beginning to have in our dear state, Abia, and the opportunities for steady enterprise growth that it promises. Therefore, gladdens my heart that Abia is actively gaining the genuine interest and unmistakable attention of members of the local and international business community. We promised at the inception of this administration that we shall be a business-friendly government, adopting robust initiatives to enhance our ease of doing business ranking, supporting micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises, and most importantly, improving our stock of human capital through various capacity-building initiatives, including consistent investments in education and health.
It's now time for some business news with Will Ibo.
Thank you, Ayotunde, and welcome to Business News. Now, the African Development Bank and the Attijari Wafa Bank Europe, the European subsidiary of the Attijari Wafa Bank Group, have signed a €100 million risk-sharing agreement to strengthen businesses and trade across Africa. The deal is expected to catalyze nearly €500 million worth of trade for companies operating in more than 20 African countries, scaling up financing to firms in the health, agriculture and agri-food, renewable energy, telecommunications and services sectors. Also to help to diversify production capacity in beneficiary countries and bolster competitiveness, generate higher tax revenues and create new jobs. The risk-sharing mechanism will guarantee African companies stable access to financing for their foreign trade operations, which is an important vector for accelerating the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area. And the governor of Lagos State, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, says his administration has concluded plans to establish a commercial airline in the state with the construction of a new airport in Lekki. The announcement was made during the comprehensive presentation of the administration's achievements in the west of Lagos at its Senatorial District People's Town Hall meeting. Governor Sanwo-Olu acknowledged that the idea to achieve a state-owned airport has been in deliberation for several months, with the state in the final stages of determining the financing model for the project. He explains that the next crucial steps would involve securing federal government approval and establishing operational contingencies for the proposed commercial airline. The Nigerian Exchange says it plans to review its listing rule to align with major global markets as part of its efforts to attract diverse businesses to the exchange. The Group Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Exchange Group, PLC, Mr. Temi Pupola, made this known while addressing leaders of exchanges from across the globe at the Working Group Committee meeting of the World Federation of Exchanges hosted in Deutsche Börse in Frankfurt, Germany. Mr. Pupola also revealed that the Exchange Group is working out other plans to revamp its technology infrastructure, attract listings, and enhance retail investors' participation and foreign capital inflows. Still talking about the equities market, the domestic equities market sustained bullish sentiments in the final trading session of the week as investors continued with a risk-on mood. John Maka tells us more.
Well, hello, Will. Welcome to the final stock market report for the week. Well, intraday, there was a little bit of pullback. It was very marginal. So even at the close of trade, we didn't see any sign of that because the market gained 0.26% and still hovering around 102,411.99. Market cap has crossed over to 56 trillion naira, making some money right there. Now, a lot of stocks contributed to this positive sentiment. First is the Fugas, and I think after two negative trades, FBN Holding is back and back with a bang, 5.15% is what FVN Holding gained today. UBA also followed GTCO and Accessco and Zenith Bank, but of course we can see that FVN Holding making up for the days that it lost. Other than the figures, we also have other market contributors today, looking at the sector. So when we see banking, obviously banking is in the green. Consumer goods, because of Dangote Sugar, flour mill, PZ, contributed to this. Oil and gas, they don't want to lose out in all of this momentum. Oil and gas, also Eternal Oil is that, and Seplat. They were the two that added to that. So it's been a positive week. We began positive, ended positive, to the joy of the bull.
And that's it on Business News. It's back to Ayotunde for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you so much, Will. An oil tanker has caught fire in the Gulf of Aden after being hit by a missile, the latest attack on commercial shipping by the Houthis in and around the Red Sea in recent times. Since November, the Iran-backed Houthis have launched dozens of attacks on commercial vessels traveling through the Red Sea, one of the world's busiest shipping corridors. Here's Samit Puzi with other international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Alabama has executed convicted murderer Kenneth Eugene Smith with nitrogen gas, the first time the method of capital punishment has been used globally. Smith lost his 2 final appeals to the Supreme Court and one to a federal appeals court, arguing the execution was a cruel and unusual punishment. In 2022, Alabama tried and failed to execute Smith by lethal injection. He was convicted in 1989 of murdering a preacher's wife, Elizabeth Sennett, in a killing for hire. According to the Death Penalty Information Center, Smith is the first person to be put to death using pure nitrogen gas anywhere in the world.
I think that anybody that witnessed this knows that we didn't see someone go unconscious in 2 or 3 seconds. We didn't see somebody go unconscious in 30 seconds. What we saw was minutes of someone struggling for their life. And we also saw correction officials in the room who were visibly surprised at how bad this thing went.
A federal judge in Brazil has ordered the mining giants BHP, Vale and their Samarco iron ore joint venture to pay $9.67 billion in damages over a deadly dam burst in 2015. The collapse of the Fundão Dam in the southeast of the country caused a giant mudslide that killed 19 people. It also severely polluted the Rio Doce River, compromising the waterway to its outlet in the Atlantic Ocean. It was not immediately clear how much each company is required to pay. Judge Vinicius Corbucci said the companies were liable for moral damages or non-material harm, such as emotional distress suffered by those affected by the incident. The Kenyan High Court has blocked the government from deploying police officers to fight gangs in Haiti.
A declaration, number 3, is hereby issued that any decision...
The judge argued that the deployment would be illegal as the National Security Council lacks the legal authority to send police outside Kenya. He added that the council can only deploy armed forces for peacekeeping missions such as Haiti. Last year, Kenya had volunteered to lead a multinational security force in Haiti to quell gang violence. Ekuru Aukot, an opposition leader who brought the case, said this was a win for Kenya and that the country cannot afford to spare officers before tackling its own security challenges. India is celebrating its 75th Republic Day with a colourful parade at which French President Emmanuel Macron is the chief guest. The day marks the anniversary of India officially adopting its constitution, making it a sovereign republic. The parade, held in the capital Delhi, went through the avenue of Kartavya Path, or Path of Duty, formerly known as the Raj Path, which connects many important landmarks in the city. It culminated at the Red Fort, a 7th century monument about 7 kilometres away. Part of the parade is a display of the country's cultural heritage as well as military might. For the first time, an all-women contingent of the Army, Air Force and the Navy also marched in the parade. Buckingham Palace says King Charles has been admitted to hospital for treatment for an enlarged prostate. The procedure will be carried out at the London Clinic private hospital where Catherine, the Princess of Wales, had surgery last week. It is understood that the King visited his daughter-in-law in the hospital on Friday morning ahead of his own scheduled treatment. It is not yet known how long King Charles will remain in hospital. Queen Camilla was seen with the monarch when he arrived at the Central London Hospital. King Charles has made his health problem public as a way of sending a message to other men to get their prostates checked. And a painting by the Austrian artist Gustav Klimt that was believed to have been lost for 100 years has been found in Vienna. Portrait of Faruk Lais once belonged to a Jewish family in Austria and was last seen in public in 1925. Its fate after that is unclear, but the family of the current owners have had the painting since the 1960s. The Im Klinsky auction house estimates the painting's value at more than $54 million. It called the rediscovery a sensation. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. The Super Eagles of Nigeria vowed to recreate their 2019 African Cup of Nations round of 16 defeat of the indomitable Lions of Cameroon in Alexandria when both teams clashed in Abidjan on Saturday at the same stage. That day at the Alexandria Stadium in Egypt, the Eagles came from 1-2 down to decision the cup holders 3-2 and reached the quarter-finals. And coach Jose Pesero can win the historic clash.
2, 3, 4. You don't want conceded goals, only conceded one. Up at the same time, you want to play offensive game. You want to enjoy the game. Until now, I think you create enough opportunity for score more goals. Like I answered the first question, I don't want conceded goals tomorrow. I want to score one at least. If you do it, you beat Cameroon.
Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp plans to take a break from football for a year once his time in charge at Anfield finishes at the end of the season. Klopp said he lacked the energy to go on as he made a shock announcement earlier today that he will step down in May. Yannick Sinner has ended Novak Djokovic's bid for a record 25th Grand Slam title earlier today, snapping the Serb's astonishing 33-match winning run at Melbourne Park to set up a final against Daniil Medvedev. The Italian fourth seed was unfazed by dropping his first set of the tournament against the king of Rod Laver Arena, winning the semi-final 6-1, 6-2, 6-7, 6-3. Meanwhile, Daniil Medvedev admits he was fortunate to battle into a third Australian Open final earlier today with a gritty come-from-behind 5-set defeat of Alexander Zverev, who revealed he was not well. The never-say-die Russian third seed was in a precarious position on Rod Laver Arena, but fought back to win 5-7, 3-6, 7-6, 7-6, 6-3 after 4 hours, 18 minutes. And that's it on sports. It's back to you, Ayotunde.
Many thanks, Chris. And the main news again. The Supreme Court today upheld the 5-year sentence of former federal lawmaker Faruk Lais for $500,000 bribe, opening a historic journey from lawmaking to prison for Mr. Lais. The River State House of Assembly has overruled Governor Fubara and enacted 4 laws after the governor withheld assent to the proposed legislations sent to him by the lawmakers. Former chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Atahiru Jega, has asked the electoral body to explain the alleged malfunctioning of IREV during the 2023 general elections. And King Charles has undergone a successful operation on his prostate, and he is said to be doing well. That's the news at 10 tonight. Many thanks for watching. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. Do have a good night and please stay safe.